Hello folks, welcome. LM22, Linux Mint 22, Mate desktop, Mate. I'm using NeoFetch if you're curious what that is, and I am filming in 1080. So today I'm going to talk about that tiny Linux Mint logo, how to find it, how to enlarge it, and also if you want to substitute with your own icons, whether you download them off the internet or whether you make them yourself. I will show you lots of little tips and tricks. I will also talk about doing stuff like this with your panel bar and hitting the start key and opening up the menu this way, or slide this on this side and press the same key to open the menu on this side. If any of that stuff appeals to you, watch the video in its entirety. Again, filming in 1080. Welcome, folks. So the original Linux Mint icon looks like this. I'm going to right click on that monitor and hit that. And we know we can pick different icons. Hopefully you know how to do this. If not, this is your original one, and it is very small. I'm going to show you where to find that icon to make it bigger. So a lot of people try this out for our size. They right-click Properties and try to expand your panel bar. Now I'm going to make these very jumbo. This will not change much. I'm going to double that number. Okay, that's roughly double. Actually, it's a little bit more than double, but that never changed. That logo is still tiny. And these icons are, well, they're kind of big. So I'm going to drop this back to 65. Okay, so the smaller, of course, that makes the panel really tiny. Again, filming in 1080. So we know we can change these. Right-click, Preferences, maybe you didn't, button icon. And you can pick these if you like. They're all small. Way too small. If you try to pick an emoji, for instance, I'll pick the crying guy because it is sad that we can't do this rather easily. There is no resizer in here. And there's other resizers for the internal icons. These over here, but not this main one. So even if I right click, there's no tool in here that says resize. You know, on a Mate desktop, when you place an icon on your desktop, you can literally click on it to resize it, but you can't resize this guy. I haven't found a tool that will do that. However, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to browse and open up this folder, and I'll show you how to do this. And this is a 60 by 60 green icon. And I will show you the standard one now that I converted, which is this one, I believe. Yes. Touching top to bottom. And again, I'm at 64 pixels. How did I achieve that? Well, I'm going to talk about a couple of rules. I'm going to tell you where to find this. I'm also going to show you how to convert it and make it larger. And I'm also going to talk about custom icons. So a couple of rules in here. Just like the developers have a couple of rules when they put together Linux distributions. We do know that in your home folder, our user for today's Mate user, it's just a made-up name, is Control-H. We have hidden stuff in here. The developers do this constantly. They put a bunch of hidden files and folders in here. And we know that. And some of them you may be familiar with, like Bash History, Born Again Shell History, has a dot in front of it. Or maybe this folder, dot icons. I've talked about where to put mouse cursor for just about every Linux distribution. If you want to do this easy, that one's called Radioactive. Your other mouse cursors are actually installed somewhere else, and they'll be installed in the same location or folder that this icon comes from. I'll talk about that in a minute. But if you're going to do this, make yourself a hidden folder. Why is that? Well, one of the reasons when you can certainly create your own non-hidden folder. But when you create a hidden folder and you just do create and put a period in front of it. And what happens is it doesn't display in a normal way. You have to literally go Control-H to see that folder or click View, Show Hidden. Okay. So if you right click on in the Cinnamon desktop, the file manager is called Nemo. There's an option for showing that in there, but not on this one. You have to literally either click or use Control H. So what is in my .my icons? That's the folder I named it. I have several examples of this sprite, and I have 2 different versions of it. And then I have some Linux Mint logos mixed in with a monitor and a couple of penguins. All of these are different sizes. Now, this one here is the exact same one that you're using here when you click this. Okay? That is the same one right here. The one I just showed you is this one. And that's a PNG, and I got it from this icon. All I did was rescale it and save it as a PNG versus an SVG. If you right click on this SVG, you will see no properties as far as how big this thing is. So, do you have this tool installed? Let me click on the menu and go to graphics. Do you have Gimp installed? If not, Software Manager. Gimp I use for a lot of different things. I also create icons with it. There's other tools for that too. But you can also convert images, including SVGs. You can also resize and scale images and icons. That's what I use this for. All right, so I'll talk about these icons here in a couple of seconds. But let me give you an example of something like this one here. It's called Internet, and I'll just hit the space bar to let you see it. And then I have this next one here next to it. It's a sprite. And these tools are all done with Gimp. GNU Image Manipulation Program. They're just different filters. And that gives you the illusion of a 3D ball with a sun in the middle of it. It's hard to see, but I will let you see what the full-size one looks like. Right-click, Preferences, button icon, change that and go to Browse. Go find where you save your folder. If you don't see hidden folders, right-click and make sure that's active. Otherwise, you see a blank. Or you can use Control H. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is give you the example of that in full size. So I will pull that up a little bit so I can hit the open and select it. Now this is way too big. You can see part of the sun and stuff in the center of this, but this icon is way too big. Now how big is this icon to begin with? It's this one right here. It is actually only 256 by 256. Theoretically, this should work on a Cinnamon desktop. It does a lot better job with these kind of things. Okay. However, what I did was I reduced them down. Here's a 52 by 52, 64 by 64, and a 46 by 46. I didn't put a dash in between that number, so it looks like 246. But it's actually the size of these. Let me right-click and let you take a look at the image size. All right, as you can tell, these are all square icons. What do I mean by that? You'll see when I open them up, they'll be in a cube. But these also do not have any backgrounds. So when you download icons, if you're doing your own, I would also try to get ones with the transparency backgrounds. And I'll talk about that tool in a second. So basically, if you go and we're going to replace this in a second. So if you don't have Gimp, go find it in Software Manager and install that. If you decided to use your own icons, keep in mind mine is hidden, so Control H. Which one do we want to pick on? Well, let's do the sprite here. How did I get it to this size? So right-click, Open With. You can see the size of it. Now the checkerboard just means it's a transparency. If you're creating your own, it's new. And if you're using a Mate desktop, this is way too big. Try maybe a 55. And then the advanced options, change the fill color to transparency. That would give you a checkered background. All right, this already is an existing icon. I got it off the internet and I used a couple of filters on it to create the illusion of a sun in the middle of that and a burst on the other side. That's not why I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about scaling here. Image scaling. So this is 256. It's way too big for our needs. So the panel itself, how big is it? Because we're going to create a custom icon that can work within a certain parameter. So 64 is my current panel height. Are you comfortable with that? If you are, let's make this new icon. We're going to scale it down to something under 64. So we could use 60, 62, 55. Let's do 57. Just to be goofy. Now, do you see this little thing here? This is a link. When you click it, you can sever the link. Okay, so I'm going to hit cancel and do this again. So it'll stay consistent until I get ready for it. So when you sever the link, that means you can change these numbers independently. When you do that, it'll distort your existing icon. Okay, keep that in mind if you decide to do that. It will distort your image. So to keep it consistent, because this is an existing image, I want that to be locked. However, I'm going to change the 256 to maybe 56 and hit enter, and that changes both numbers. I don't care about the resolution. Scale. Now, the next thing you're probably going to say is you're going to save it. Nope, I'm not. I'm going to export it. This is very important because you need to export it as a PNG. Okay? You make sure that that extension says PNG on it. So this is called Internet 2. I'm going to add some things onto it. And what did now that I'm talking, I forgot how far I scaled it. I apologize. 56. Export out. I'm going to put behind the 2 a dash 56x56. That way I know how big it is without having to open it. I recommend putting stuff like that in the name so you can identify it quickly. So that one is the new one. You can see that's a 52, 64, 46. They're all square. In other words, the size of the icon is consistent by 56 by 56. So far, so good? All right, we're going to replace that. .56 by 56. And you'll probably agree that it looks a lot better now. You can see the whole icon. You can either see the 3D effect on it. Okay? Do you want to deal with these? All right. This I copied directly from the Linux Mint system. This is the same icon. So I keep doing that. Right click, preferences. So we're going to go find this icon here. And we're going to make it bigger. I already downloaded it here. Okay, but we will do this again. And I'll actually delete that one also. If you want to get out your screenshot tool, this may be something that you want to handwrite down also. If you don't want to subscribe. That's all up to you. I've been having some beefs with YouTube, but anyways, it is what it is. Icon location. Make it bigger for you. There is where it's located. So it's in USR share icons, and the developer, just like Linux Mint, put a lot of different things in there. All developers usually put a lot of things in that particular folder, like mouse cursors and other stuff. And when I open this folder, you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm going to do the whole line because I can, but you can do a screenshot of this. I'm going to convert that address bar by hitting Control L and then Control V to paste that address in there. And more importantly, here is your standard USR share icons. There's a lot of stuff in there. You may recognize that one. That's your standard mouse pointer that comes with Mint. There's another one there. This yellow thing is not installed in here. That yellow thing is installed in here, in this folder. It's called radioactive. All right. So I'm going to open up the file manager again, convert that over, Control L, and paste that same thing in there. So there's the path to your icons. It is /USR share icons, high color scalable apps. Oof, that's a mouthful. There they are. You pick them out, whichever you want. You want the standard one? That's that one. SVG. Copy. Since all of these are owned by root, you'll see root permissions on these things. You can't make changes in here, deleting and anything unless you're in root mode. But we don't care about that. But we do care about making this icon bigger. So what I'm going to do is copy it. And then I'm going to go find my hidden folder, which again is Control H to view it. And then I'm going to paste it in here. All right, you're not done yet though. If you try to use this, this will be the exact same size. I'll prove it to you right now. So right click, Preferences, button icon, Browse, Documents, My Icons, and there's the SVG. And there it is. It didn't change, did it? Nope. So to fix this problem, I right click on it. I open this with Gimp. Accept the idea that it's a 96 by 96. That's okay. Walk over here to Image to Scale. How big was my panel bar again? 64. Let's call that 60. I think that'll be plenty big. Keeping the link on, it changes both numbers. Don't forget to hit the scaling. And now you can export or export as. Just make sure that when you export this, you do change that to a PNG. I'm going to add the word -60, 60x60, so I know that's a 60 by 60. So I don't have to look at it again. Yes, it is fixed, but I just did two things. I have the original SVG, so I can make more of these. Or you can go find a new one in that path I just gave you. This does not have an icon yet, so I'm going to toggle this back and back in here. And now you can see it. Now we're going to change that tiny thing into this one. Right click, Preferences, button icon, Browse, Documents. Again, I have hidden turned on, so I can see that. And this is the 60 by 60. Now I have that from top to bottom. So your choice. I have the same issue with penguin here. So this penguin is actually 128 by 128. You would think that it would fit nicely here, but it's too big. Let me let you see that. At least you're not doing this all day long. I'm just doing this for samples. But you're probably only going to do this once. Or maybe whenever you change. So I'm cutting his head off because he's too big. However, I made some additional ones. There's a 52 by 52 and a 64 by 64. Since my panel is what? It's 64. I probably can just squeeze him in. So let's try that. And again, the reason I recommend hidden folders, so you don't do this and make mistakes. It's easier to have these hidden, that way you don't see them on a regular basis. And as long as you remember where that folder is located, the system will load this icon after you do a reboot. If you decide to move this folder after you start using, let's say, the penguin or your resized Mint logo, whatever you do, do not move this folder, do not change its name, and whatever icons that you're currently using in here, anywhere on your system, do not rename them. You can rename the icons that are currently not in use. That's the rule. Linux Mint, just like any other developer of systems, has a location of these icons. And when the locations change, that's when you get blanks. And you're doing the same thing here. This icon will remain here, even if I do a theme change. Okay, to give you an example of that, I'll leave Mr. Penguin there. And we'll do that through the control center, and I will just make a mess of things. Let's go with a dark image. Let's do, I don't know, a brown, window border, brown, icon set, brown. Close. Everything just changed. Maybe a different icon set. We can go with gray even. Lots of different icons changes, but the penguin did not. Because I manually assigned it. Even the Firefox icon is different. Alright, I'm going to leave that. I'm approaching 20 minutes. Just one thing to keep in mind, folks. Whenever you create these hidden folders, Control H. My recommendation, if you're currently using an icon from this folder, do not rename the folder. Do not rename the icon. If you do, you'll have to reassign it. Because they will go away on a reboot. You will get a blank if you either A, move this folder, rename the folder, or rename the icon you're currently using. And this goes also for these two here. If you do, you may get this one back in case you renamed your folder. You may actually see this one return to the default tiny Linux Mint icon. You may not like most of the stuff that I just did, but this is one way to get around making these icons bigger on your panel. And then for the little trick regarding this, pressing the Start key to open the menu. If I slide this over to this side and pressing the Start key to open the menu opens on this side. I'll show you how to do that. Right click on your panel bar, hit Properties, turn these two on. If you turn this one off, you will see invisible buttons. They're still buttons. If I turn this off, there's no buttons at all, standard menu. That's normally off, I believe, by default. So if you want to turn those on, you'll get a slight reduction on your panel bar, but you'll have this option. If you want to see the arrows, there you be. Thank you for watching.